Hello and welcome to Nbyula Talks. Before we begin, we have a few updates and reminders for you. We would love to have you be part of our Nbyula community. And you can do so by logging on to www.nbyula.com, where you can join communities related to your area of interest, register for upcoming Nbyula Talks, book one-to-one skylifts, and view other upcoming events. You can also take this opportunity to connect with fellow learners or the speaker by sending a connection request. When you connect with the speaker, you will be able to contact them directly as well as receive updates about their upcoming talks. Kindly note that during this session, you will not be able to switch on your camera or unmute your mic. To ask questions during the talk, go to the audience chat, type your question, and select Post your question. If your question has not been answered during the talk, you will be notified once it's been answered, or if your question has not been answered during the talk, you can go to www.nbyula.com and spin a quest, and your questions will be answered. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this talk broadens your horizons and takes you to new learning heights. Hi everyone, welcome to my talk today. I'm so glad to have you here. My name is Sarah and I'm a TESOL certified IELTS trainer, and today we're going to be talking about things that you need to know before applying for the IELTS. So let's get started. While I share my screen, I have a poll for you guys. So I'm going to share this right now. And go ahead. The question is, will you be applying for the IELTS? So go ahead and cast your vote, say yes or no while I share my screen. All right. Okay, so I see the answers have come in, and a lot of you are saying yes. That's fantastic, because then this talk is definitely for you. All right. So again, we're just going to be going through everything that you need to know, or top 5 things you need to know before you apply for the IELTS. All right. So let's get started and let's understand what the IELTS is. All right. So the IELTS stands for International English Language Testing System. All right. And it's an English proficiency exam that students usually take, or people usually take, if they want to work, study, or migrate abroad. All right. And also you can take this exam anytime. All right. As we go through this talk, we'll be talking about when you can and things like that. So that's the who, what, when about it. All right. And also, you must be thinking, why should we take the IELTS exam? All right. So again, if you're looking to work or study or live abroad or migrate abroad to an English-speaking country, then you will have to demonstrate that you know how to speak English. Now, a lot of you who are here today are students. So when we talk about the IELTS, we'll be looking at it more in an academic setting. All right. And I'll explain why academic. So this is for you. You will need to be able to demonstrate your English skills once you go to study abroad. You need to show the university that you are able to understand what is being taught to you so that you can do your assignments and go to the classes and interact with others as well. All right. So again, usually it's for countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the UK. All right. Now, where can you take these exams? Again, you can register with IDP and or the British Council. Okay, and we'll get more into detail with that as we go along. All right, so let's move on to the top 5 things you will need to know before you apply for the IELTS exam. All right, first of all, you need to know the types of IELTS tests. So this is what I just said before. I talked about the academic. So let's find out about the 2. Okay, so there are 2 types of IELTS modules generally that people would take in terms of if you need to migrate abroad and or study abroad. The visa one is a little different, but today we're going to be focusing on mainly the academic side, but let's just go through these 2. All right, so as we just discussed, you have the IELTS academic exam. Again, that is for students who are looking to pursue their undergraduate or postgraduate degrees abroad. Okay. And also it is a requirement when you are applying that they will ask you for an IELTS certificate. Okay, and then you have the IELTS general exam. Again, it's for those who are studying below undergraduate level or immigrating to an English-speaking country. All right. All right. Number 2, know the cost and know when you need your results. Now, when you hear about the IELTS exam, you'll be thinking, okay, I need to apply for the IELTS, I need to take the IELTS, but the first thing comes into mind is how much does it cost? All right, so as of right now, if you are a student applying from India, the cost is rupees 15,500. All right, now there are also 2 ways you can take the exam. That is the paper-based test or the computer-based test. Both are the same cost. All right, and you also need to know when you need your results. So when you go to apply for the exams, you will have different dates that you can choose. Now you need to know when you need to submit your college application or university application and base it on that. Now the good thing about the IELTS is that whenever you take it, your test, the results are valid for 2 years. All right. So that's the really good thing about IELTS. So plan accordingly, know when you need your results, base it upon your application, when's the due date, things like that, so that you give yourself enough time to prepare as well, and give yourself enough time to receive the test report form, because what happens is if you're taking the paper-based test, you will receive your results within 13 days. And if you're taking the computer-based test, it will be between 3 to 5 days. So base it accordingly. All right, number 3. You also need to know where you can register. So like we just talked about at the beginning, I gave you 2 examples of where you can register. That is either IDP and or the British Council. So let's just look through this again. You can go onto IELTS.org as well. And what you can do is you can choose the country that you are applying from, go there, put in the test, find your test center, choose the dates, and go accordingly, whether you want the paper-based or the computer-based, it will tell you. All right. You can also go onto the British Council site and register, and also the IDP. Now, if you're a student who is applying for the IELTS in India, the best bet that you have is to either go into IELTS.org or the IDP website. All right, because British Council has stopped providing IELTS exams in India. So go ahead. So what happens is if you go onto the IELTS.org website, you can, it will redirect you to the IDP website. So either way, you can find a test center and book accordingly. It's that easy. Okay. Another thing that is important to know is you need to know the schedule. So what do I mean by that? You need to know the basics, and that is basically for the IELTS academic test. I will solely be talking about the IELTS academic test. So it has 4 sections. That is the reading, listening, writing, and speaking. All right, so you need to know that the listening, reading, and writing tests are all scheduled and completed on the same day. There will be no breaks in between each part of the test. And also, depending on your test center, you may have your speaking test on the same day, you might have it a week before, or you might have it a week after. But that will be communicated to you once you apply for the IELTS. So that's why you also need to know the schedule so that you can plan ahead, again, in terms of preparation, in terms of when you need your results, all those things. So you have everything in line when you go to apply. All right, number 4, know the format. Okay, this is also very important. Again, before you apply for the IELTS, you would have heard so much information and so many things about it, but it's also important to know the format so you know what you're getting yourself into. Okay. All right, so let's quickly go through the format. Okay, we're going to be looking at the 4 sections that I just mentioned. First of all, the listening section. So the listening section, again, lasts for 30 minutes. And again, in this section, you will hear 4 different recordings, which include monologues and conversations. You will also be asked a variety of questions with regards to the recordings that you have heard. And the thing with the listening test is that you will only hear the audio once. Okay, moving on to the reading section. The reading section lasts for 1 hour, okay, and a variety of skills will be used. And what happens here is that for the reading section and the writing section, which we'll be getting into in a minute, they both are different. So the academic is different and the general side is different, okay? So you need to know which one you're taking, which is why I mentioned that at the beginning, and see this. So yeah, that's what the reading section. Now let's move on to the speaking section. Again, the speaking section is the shortest one. It lasts for around 11 to 14 minutes. All right, and in the speaking section, you have 3 subsections, which include short questions and longer questions, as well as a structured discussion with the IELTS speaking examiner. All right, so what happens is usually the speaking exam is face-to-face with a real live examiner. All right, and you should also know the types of questions you can be asked. You should practice that as well. So again, leave yourself enough time before applying for the IELTS or after you apply for the IELTS to practice and prepare for it. All right, and last but not least, the writing section. Again, this also lasts for 1 hour, just like the reading section. And again, there are 2 subsections. Okay, now in terms of academic, you have the first task, where you'll be given some sort of diagram or graphical representation where you have to write at least 150 words. And then the second task, which is an essay type question, where you have to write at least 250 words. Again, the academic writing paper and the general writing paper are 2 different ones, so make sure you know. All right, so those of you who are applying for colleges, you are students, you will really just gravitate towards the IELTS academic exam. All right. Okay, and last but not least, know the ways in which you can prepare for the test. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can prepare. All right, you have self-study books, you have practice tests. Some people will just feel like maybe if they don't have enough time to practice or prepare, if they maybe book their test within a week, all right, they usually go for practice tests. If you have a little bit more time, you can go through self-study books. All right, there's a number of books that you can learn from, as well as online study and tutoring. All right, so these are the options that you have in terms of preparing. Now, again, these are the top 5 things that you should know before you go ahead and apply for the exams. One of them, let's just recap, is to know which exam you're taking. Again, if you are a student, you should gravitate more towards the IELTS academic, all right, because it is a requirement of most colleges or universities to have this IELTS certificate. So do go ahead and do your research on the IELTS academic section and know what you need to do. Also know, again, the cost of it is 15,000 rupees if we're speaking, if you're a student from India. Okay, know where you can register. Again, that is IELTS.org, British Council, or the IDP. All right, so these 3 are joint owners of the IELTS. So if you go ahead and go into any of those sites, you can register directly and it will show you your test centers. All right, again, it's also important to know the schedule. Okay, again, know that the reading, writing, and listening will happen on the same day, and then be aware of your speaking date, whether it's on the same day, a little bit before, or a little bit after, so that you give enough time to prepare and you know when it is. Okay. Also know the format of it, know the different question types, know how it is structured. Okay. Each section has different question types that are there. So do practice and prepare. Again, know when you need your results so that you can make sure that your application is submitted in time. Give yourself enough time to practice and prepare for the IELTS. All right, that's my advice to you. So now we can move on to the question answer session. Okay, all right. You guys can just give in your questions. I see some right now. So the first question we have is from Ria is, which book should I refer to prepare for the IELTS? So Ria and everybody else, there are a number of different books that you can use to prepare for the IELTS. One of them that I found really helpful is the Cambridge IELTS books. Okay, they have one for general and they have one for academic, and they also have a big book for both. All right, so I would just recommend those. All right. Okay, going on. So, right, Namita has asked, which one is easier, the IELTS General or the IELTS Academic? That's a really good question. So, from what I've seen and what I've heard as well, the IELTS General is a bit more easier than the IELTS Academic, because the IELTS Academic is more, as it suggests, in more of an academic setting. So your questions will be directed more towards academic papers where you'd have like probably reading comprehensions from that, and your writing topics will be something along that line. Whereas general, they're just trying to understand your basic level of English proficiency. And since it's something that you only need to show in terms of visa and things like that, the IELTS general is easier. All right, but that doesn't mean, students, that you go take the IELTS general thinking that it's easier than the IELTS academic. Again, IELTS general is mainly for those who are looking to work or immigrate abroad, all right, to go abroad just to live or just when they're moving. Whereas the academic is for those students who are looking to do their undergraduate or postgraduate degrees abroad. All right, so students kind of graduate towards the academic, don't really look at the general. Okay. All right. Another good question from Ria is, why should I choose the IELTS over TOEFL? Okay, so this might be a word that you've been hearing as well, IELTS, all the abbreviations. So let's just go through this for a minute. The different English proficiency exams that you have are the IELTS, TOEFL, OET, and PTE. All right. But students, what happens is those who are looking to study abroad, they usually hear about the IELTS and TOEFL. All right. So the good thing about this and why you should kind of choose the IELTS over TOEFL in a way is because IELTS is more widely recognized. So is TOEFL, but IELTS has a wider, what do you say? People understand about the IELTS a bit more. What happens is that there's a wider scope as well as since the IELTS has it for the general and academic, that's why they have a wider scope, whereas TOEFL is just for academic purposes. Okay. Also, the scoring is different and the duration of the exams are different. There are some differences with the exam, but it's better if you choose IELTS as it is a bit, I would say, a bit more recognized. Most universities do ask for your IELTS certificate. So that's kind of why you should kind of go towards the IELTS. Yeah. Okay. All right, getting a few more questions in while we wait. Okay. Is it possible to prepare for the IELTS at home? It is definitely possible to prepare for your IELTS at home. Again, there are some suggestions that we had said about using self-study books or doing practice tests and or online learning or tutoring. So I'm glad this question was asked because it's going to lead me to my next point in just a minute while we wait for some more questions to come in. Okay. All right. I'm just looking at the polls you guys have voted for. Right? Most of you are applying for the IELTS, so that's really great to know. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the question which Namita has asked. Is it possible to prepare for the IELTS at home? Okay, so yes, it is. Now, I'm just going to tell you that if you do prepare from home, here are some of the IELTS skylifts for you that I have on Nbyula.com. So I'll just go through them one by one. What you can do is you can book a one-on-one session with me in terms of for your listening skills or for your reading skills, or if you need a partner to speak with. So if you are doing a self-study by yourself at home, you don't really want anything, you can book a session with me, and what happens is we'll go through it together. Again, when you're preparing from home, you might want a speaking partner, so I can help you with that. Again, I will provide tests or assessments, and you can go through those, and we can have a one-on-one session where I can give you some tips and tricks, as well as maybe go through a paper, things like that. All right. Also, I will share links to my personal guidance sessions in the conversations. So conversations meaning the one when you had applied for or booked the Skylift, this talk right now, you would have been directed to a conversation. So there we'll put in the personal links. Okay. Right. I also have other talks available on Nbyula.com, where if you just want any kind of guidance, not only personal guidance, but other Nbyula talks that are listed, you can go ahead and book those and have a view at that. All right. I think that's all for the questions. I don't see any new ones. Okay. So if you have any other questions regarding the IELTS, be it for this talk or anything else that you were not able to ask in today's talk, you can go ahead and type them in very quickly right now, or you can start a quest on Nbyula.com and I will get notified and I will give you an answer to that as soon as I can. All right, I think that is the end of my talk today. Thank you so much for joining. But before I end the talk, I do have one more thing that I would like to say. Nbyula.com does provide other skylifts as well related to scholarships, IELTS, and other topics. So we have an upcoming Nbyula Talk in the coming week with Samandita, okay, and she'll be talking about the UK Shemming Scholarship. All right, so do sign up for that. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining today. Have a good evening.